Hey y'all, welcome back. This is Shah. I'm going to be reacting to a video from one of my favorite content creators, It's Complicated channel. One of the things I really like about his channel is he does a great job of asking questions or getting people to think in a way that they're not used to. So let's go and take a look.
Thank you all for 200K. If you want to support this channel, please consider making a donation or clip my videos and share it on all platforms. Don't forget to tag me.
Is it easier for a man or a woman to acquire sex?
It is much easier for a woman to acquire sex.
Why is that?
Because we choose. We choose whether or not we have the option of whether or not we're going to let a man have sex or not.
I don't think that that's necessarily true.
Don't women typically consent to sex?
Consent goes both ways.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. What's the longest that a man's ever made you wait for sex?
You know what? It's happened. I don't know.
But does that typically happen?
Maybe. No, it doesn't typically happen.
Okay, so isn't it fair to say that women generally control access to sex more than men do?
If a woman wants sex, she can get it. If a man wants sex, doesn't mean that he can necessarily get it.
Okay, so is it safe to say that women typically control access to sex more than men do?
She is trying her best to not have to answer that question in the way that is starting to make most logical sense here.
Because it's easier for a woman to get sex than it is for a man?
I don't like the phrasing that you're boxing me into, but I would.
But I mean, do you have a different way of explaining it? I mean, is that not generally true?
I think that.
I mean, if it's easier for a woman to get sex and it's harder for a man to get sex, we can't conclude that women typically control access?
Okay. It's easier for.
See, that's what the interviewer is a master at doing, is helping people really see where their blind spots are.
For a girl, for sure. Yeah, guys are thirsty.
Yeah. Since it's harder for men, should women be surprised that guys have lower standards for sex than women?
Not really, because I mean, they just want to get it in, right?
Yeah, real quick. I don't know.
Don't women have the privilege of being more picky because they have more options?
I mean,
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't women have the privilege of being more picky because they have more options?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of an incel?
No.
An incel?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Have you ever heard of an incel?
No.
Okay, incel stands for involuntarily celibate, and it refers to a person who can't get any sex. Who is more likely to be involuntarily celibate, men or women?
Men.
Men. I think it's 1 in 3 men are not having sex right now.
In today's society, if a man goes up to a woman and asks her for her number or Snapchat, he's looked at as like a creep and a pervert. But if a woman goes up to a man, it's 100% okay, which is not okay to me.
I mean, you know, they always say about that, it just depends on how attractive you are, that you can get away with certain things, you know. I often think about that in terms of clothing too. Like, I feel like if a person who's already really attractive can go in and wear some not so nice clothes and people will be like, you know, that shirt actually doesn't look that bad. It's actually a pretty nice shirt. And that's why they choose like models and stuff to display clothing as far as advertising goes. And then if someone who's less attractive wears the same shirt, it just looks terrible on them.
Why are men shamed for not being able to get sex, but also shamed for trying to get sex?
That's a good question. I think it's the way they go about trying to get sex, because women want relationships. Well, I can't say all.
See, I mean, I feel like the way she's answering it is like, I don't even know how she can answer that question. It in the way that men go about trying to get sex. So she's already admitted that it's going to be way easier for her to be able to have access to sex than a man. So a man has to do all these extra things and, you know, really try to sell himself in order to get what she can get by not really having to put as much effort in. So it's going to be easier for her to shame the people on the, you know, the guys basically, because it all is going to probably seem pretty pushy to her for the most part.
Want relationships. Well, I can't say all women, but a good amount of women want relationships, and when you meet the men that just want sex, it kind of tarnishes everything.
Is it fair to shame men for being incels when women are the ones who control access to sex?
I don't think you should shame anybody for anything.
Is it fair to shame men for being incels when women are the ones who control access to sex?
No, not at all.
Isn't that victim shaming?
Yes, 100%.
Isn't every man who's been rejected temporarily an incel?
Yes.
That's such a interesting way to think about it. If you've ever been rejected, you're an incel in that moment.
Is it fair to portray incels as lazy, immature losers because they don't conform to women's standards and selectivity?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Fucking incel.
No.
If a man can't get sex, he might be made fun of and called names just for that. And then, well, also I think if a man does get a lot of sex, it might be like everyone praises him also for getting a lot of sex. So I don't really think that.
You know, that's something that I remember a long time ago, at least, like as far as I can remember, people would ask, they'd be like, why is it that when a man gets a lot of sex, he's considered a player, but when a woman has a lot of sex, she's considered a slut and slut shamed? And I often used to think about that, and I was like, that is kind of a double standard. But now that I'm older and I've dated and experienced the culture of dating, especially where I live here in California, it makes all the sense in the world, because it's so much, as a lot of the women and people have admitted here, that it's easier for women to get sex than it is for a man to. Of course a man's going to be, if you're a guy and you see a guy and he's getting all the ladies, you're going to wonder, like, man, how is he doing that? Because as a guy, you know how tough it can be. So you got to think like, man, that guy's got something figured out. But if you see a woman and the amount of effort she needs to put in to be able to have sex that night, she just open a dating app and just be like, hey, I'm down, and like 20 guys will just appear out of nowhere, then people are going to call her a slut because, well, she's doing something that's just so easy and doesn't really take that much effort on her part to do. So it's more of an indulgence on her part than it took any kind of strategy or understanding, which is why we're really playing the same game from two completely different starting difficulties.
There's a whole lot of men out there that are getting shamed for having a lot of sex.
Is it fair to portray incels as lazy, immature losers because they don't conform to women's standards and selectivity?
Negative. No. Everybody is built different and has their own standards in life.
If a man does conform, does that make him a simp?
Negative. No.
Why is it more acceptable to shame men for having low standards versus shaming women for having unrealistic high standards?
That is right. I'm speechless on that one.
Oh, yeah. You
This is, like, again, why I love this channel.
kind of got me flabbergasted on that one.
Right, you're fluttered, don't know what to say.
Damn.
Survival of the fittest. Whoever seems like they're about to get it in, gets it in, and they continue their genes and whatnot. But besides that, like, I don't know.
So would you say, based on that women ultimately control the evolution of society?
Yes.
Based on the men that they choose?
Yes, it's because it's like the mating rituals. Like, they say yes or no in most breeds. you know,
So
like
then
the
how are we
species.
living in a patriarchy where men have all the power?
Just because that's how society was set up when women were supposed to stay home and take care of the kids, and the guys went out and did all that shit, and we're supposed to rely on them.
What if
You know, it's just interesting when it's like, it kind of sounds like someone set it up that way or purposely set it up that way. And I guess, but mostly I think it was set up that way because of biological needs. You know, so much has changed in the last 100 years that gave women more control over their bodies, like technology and stuff and birth control and things that maybe didn't exist back then. So
what is the longest you've gone without having sex?
A year?
What is the longest by choice you've gone without having sex?
A year?
Probably like 18 years.
What is the longest by choice you've gone without having sex?
18 years. That's funny. Okay.
Like a month.
Who's more likely to lie about how long they've gone without sex?
Come on, man. A month? Come on. This guy's dry spell was probably like way longer than a month. He's lying now.
Men or women?
Women.
Don't men lie about getting more and women lie about getting less?
No.
I think they're probably both more likely to lie. I mean, the women are going to want to make it seem like it was a longer time that they didn't have sex, and the men are going to be like it was shorter because they don't want to seem like they're not getting any.
Yeah.
Don't men lie about getting more and women lie about getting less?
There it is.
Yes,
Why?
because we're seen as being tarnished for the more sex that we have.
Why are women who sleep around seen as sluts while men who sleep around are seen as studs?
Because men don't want to see that their woman that they have prospect to be interested in has been with every man.
Could it be because it's easier for a woman to be a slut?
No,
Well, don't women control access to sex?
they do, but there are many male sluts. They're just being praised for being that way.
But isn't it harder for a man to be a male slut than it is for a woman to be a female slut?
Depends on the man.
Wouldn't you say that the high-value men with lots of options are rare?
Yeah.
So then wouldn't you say that it's more likely for your average woman to be a female slut than your average man?
Yes.
Women sleep with who they want, men sleep with who they can.
Facts.
What's the difference between shaming a woman for being a slut and shaming a man for being an incel? In other words, why are women shamed for having too much sex while men are shamed for not getting any sex?
See, and that kind of goes back to the question that I used to hear a long time ago. Is like, why is it a guy? He's asking why a woman gets shamed for having too much sex versus a man who can't get sex is also shamed. But the other part that you can put in that question is why is a man praised if he gets a lot of sex compared to a woman who's shamed for having a lot of sex?
Well, women can't have sex without being attached in some way. It's just in our innate.
What do you mean they can't have sex?
See, that I don't even know how that's true, because literally the entire root of prostitution, mostly from women, is them having sex for money, which it has nothing to do with emotional attachment.
Not that they can't have sex. They can't be.
There it is.
They can't have sex without having some type of emotional attachment.
So it doesn't count as sex for her unless that's a guy that she really likes. And anything that might have been done in a more of a transactional nature is probably something that just doesn't exactly, get filed into the memory banks.
Why do you think men are more likely to be able to have sex without feelings than women?
Because you guys are made to procreate.
The name is involuntarily celibate, so the man is not choosing.
Yeah, he doesn't have a choice for that one. But us females, we definitely have a choice to be a slut or not.
Well, because women control access to sex.
I control whether you take my clothes off or not.
We do.
Don't women have a choice to be a slut, but a man doesn't have a choice to be an incel?
Yeah.
So then why would it be worse to call a woman a slut than it is to call a man an incel?
I don't know why it would be worse.
But our society labels it as worse.
They label being an incel worse than being a slut?
Well, in other words, a lot of women resent being called a slut when they have
Correct.
a choice to be a slut, but it's okay for men to be called incels when men don't have a choice to be an incel because men don't control access to sex.
That's something, the incel concept is something that's really interesting, because it's definitely a group of, or a subset of people who seems to be expanding lately, and the way society deals with that will probably have more repercussions to come.
I think men don't have the choice on what they're doing, but nowadays with social media going the way it is, women have actually embraced slut, and that's the problem.
Do you think women today are more interested in relationships or hookups?
I would say more hookups today.
Why?
Because they have all these rappers, saying, influencing them, like they're trying to play the role as men, they're trying to play us out of our money. And
the truth is most women I think I've come across are never going to admit that they're in it for a hookup. They just never will, Every, most Tinder profiles you're going to see, they're going to be not interested in one night stand or hookups. It'll just say blatantly that they don't want hookups.
Me personally, I'm more interested in relationships. Women nowadays, I think, are more worried about their careers and hookups.
She can't actually say that she is more interested in hookups because it goes back to the slut shaming thing. You know what I mean? we've all accepted that's how society looks at it, at least from the previous conversation in this video. So she can't say here right now that like, yeah, I actually think hookups are a little better and easier, especially when you're going for career. She's going to say, no, I value a relationship, because women are molded that way to say that, especially in our society. No, I value relationships, you know.
So if women are more interested in hookups, how can a man let a woman know he just wants to hook up without making her feel like a slut?
There you go.
There isn't a way, no matter what.
So
there isn't a way, and this is why so many people have trouble with dating, you know, because people, that's where the whole game comes into it, you know. Like, he's asking, how would a man if you're a man and you're new to dating, the first few times you're probably going to be like, you know, I'm an honest person, why can't two adults just be honest about it? And then you're going to be like, hey, what's up, how are you? You know, you match somebody and you're like, yeah, you know, this is really what I'm interested in. They're going to immediately unmatch you and be like, you're only here for hookups? Ew, that's dirty, or something like that. And then the guy's going to get smarter. It's like watching one of those AI programs learn as it crashes into the wall and then it figures out the path a little bit more. And then he's going to be like, okay, that didn't work. And then they're going to find out all the stuff to say until they sleep with you, the woman. And then, you know, they kind of were just there for the hookup, and then you maybe thought it was something else, but they just said all the right words they needed to say to get you to do that. And then you're going to be upset after. And that's why so many people are upset in the dating world, because they're just like, how come nobody knows what they want? Everybody knows what they want. They just can't say what they want, because then they'll get shamed for it.
Aren't we kind of damned if we do, damned if we don't?
Yes, you are.
Would you rather have the best sex you've ever had or the best food you've ever eaten?
Best food you ever eaten.
Yeah, food for sure.
Best food I've ever eaten.
I'm a foodie. I like
Would you rather eat all the junk food you want without gaining weight, or have unlimited sex without being slut-shamed?
unlimited
sex without being slut-shamed.
Who are the bigger slut-shamers, men or women?
I instinctively wanted to say men would be, but then I thought about it and I was like, no, it's got to be other women.
Women?
Why are there men who shame women for being sluts when men also complain about how hard it is to get laid? Are those the same men?
No. I think the men that are calling women sluts are looking for a woman that aren't sluts.
If a woman's body count doesn't matter, why is it typically the first thing women bring up to shame another woman they are jealous of? In other words, why would a woman ever slut shame another woman?
Because they know deep down body count does matter.
I guess why a woman would slut shame another woman, that's an interesting thing to think about. It probably comes from a position of weakness in the woman doing the shaming. You know what I mean? Like, maybe she's not hot enough to get as many guys as the hotter woman. So the hotter woman is making her life harder by taking, quote unquote, stealing the guys, or you know, getting all the attention from the guys that she wants. So she gets angry and she's like, you're a slut. Or probably like a real nightmare for married women are kind of like unmarried women who are really attractive, because then, you know, maybe they can seduce their husbands away from them and ruin their households, and they'll be like, you're a slut. So women have a lot of incentive to slut shame if they might, you know, they don't have as much power in that realm as another woman does.
Is the main reason women don't want to be easy is because they don't want to be shamed, or could it be that they don't want to relinquish their sexual power over men?
You know what's so crazy? I just thought about this. She said that the person who does the most slut shaming is gonna be women and not men. And it's almost like, you know, when women complain about patriarchy or whatever it is, they will say the patriarchy is what keeps the female sexuality down. But it's funny because she just said it was other women who do the slut shaming, unless I misheard.
I don't think either one of those. I think the reason why women don't want to be easy is because we don't want to have a body count, because we want to find somebody that wants us for who we are. And the guys that we're looking for don't want a woman with high body count.
Why is it okay for women to feel entitled to be protected and provided for, but it's wrong for men to feel entitled to sex and intimacy?
I think after being provided for so long, and once you're comfortable in the relationship, that men are going to expect for you to be intimate with them at a certain point.
I mean, I think it's one of those things, and then you learn this as you get older, more with experience. it should be one of those things that you don't have to like mechanically or robotically talk about. You know, it's not like, oh, on Thursday night after we have our date night, we will go back to the bedroom at home and that's when you will have sex with me or whatever. You know what I mean? It's something that's just supposed to kind of happen naturally or organically. It starts to become an issue when, as the time between it gets longer and longer and longer from maybe the last time you did, because then you start questioning, well, why isn't it? You know, and I haven't been married, but I can imagine if you're married and then suddenly it just goes closer and closer and closer to being a dead bedroom, then the guy starts to wonder, I wonder what it is, you know, and then it might cross more over into the realm of asking directly about it and all these kinds of things. And then it might seem like, well, why are you asking me for sex? You know, is that all you expect from me? And then it just can just all downward spiral from there.
Are women doing men a favor by giving them sex?
Yes.
Man, I'll say this right now. I hate the idea of sex being like a favor or something. Like if a woman ever says it like this is a favor she's doing to me, it's freaking over. Like, oh, you're doing me a favor? Okay, goodbye, you know?
Yeah, I guess.
for a moment.
If a woman rewards a man with sex, why is there still pressure on him to perform and satisfy her?
I feel like men can be selfish.
But girls will not come back if they're not, like, doing well. Yeah.
Well, why should a man have to earn the opportunity to please you sexually?
You know, that's an interesting question. And I think women select for men because I do believe that, like, there's going to be a lot of guys out there that can't satisfy women sexually or not, or, you know, be able to last long enough and stuff like that. And the whole thing of the dating game and how a man's confidence is and how a woman sees cracks in the man's armor if he gets nervous, I think is a kind of like evolutionary biological way to tell how good is this guy going to be in bed.
Because women get to decide everything in other species, so why not human species?
Okay, but then if that's true, then why do we complain about being in a male-dominated patriarchy where men control women?
So this is why I love the questions on this channel. Make sure you guys visit this channel. I'm gonna put a link in the description for It's Complicated channel.
Guys, it's the hunter and gatherer type of discussion because we had to stay at home and wait for the men to come and hunt and bring that shit back to us for us to like.
Because you couldn't hunt as well, you know, and that's just what it was biologically. So, you know, it's not like no one was saying, hey, you have to do this. Like, that's just how the survival worked out.
Cooking shit. So that's where it started.
Are there female incels?
I think so, maybe.
Would it be fair for society to shame a
They call them femcells.
lonely old cat lady for being involuntarily celibate?
No.
How likely are men to have sex with a lonely woman out of pity?
I guess it depends on who you ask. I'd say pretty likely.
I've heard there's a channel called Psychax, which I really like, and he talks about a pairing that he likes is younger men in their earlier mid-20s who aren't I guess quote unquote high value, and then older women that are kind of like these cat ladies he's talking about that are having trouble getting married and stuff. He's like, those two groups of people can come together and actually do a lot of good for each other because the young guy's having trouble, you know, getting who he wants, which is like more of a younger woman. And the older woman's having trouble getting who she wants, which is like a more established guy. And at least for dating, the energy there is kind of the same, and it can be mutually beneficial.
How likely are women to have sex with lonely men out of pity?
Oh, unlikely.
That's never going to happen.
They just want men that are rich and famous.
Yeah, or you know, I know it's cliche, but like very like confident. I think even if you're rich and like famous, let's just say rich. I mean, I don't know about famous, but if you're leading with your money and you're still not confident, a woman's gonna come and have sex with you, but she's gonna take complete advantage of you as soon as she can.
How likely are women to have sex with lonely men out of pity?
Not so likely.
They're gonna want money.
Why is that?
Because a woman wants a man that looks strong and feels strong, and she feels like she's going to be protected, and that's what they look for. So if you look like you're the weak one cowering in the corner, she's probably not going to go up to you.
And see, in the way I hear that is looks strong, looks cowering. That kind of translates to confidence, you know. And that's not like a fake confidence, but it's like when you really have like that feeling on the inside, like where you just hold yourself up and you feel good, and it just feedbacks on itself positively. They can sense that. People can sense that. It's like good energy.
Men think that there are these issues. Like if you were more confident, or if you just like put yourself out there more, you just like, F it, whatever, just do it. I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what the woman's standards are. That's what they're attracted to.
Yes. Yes.
Let me ask you this. So if you woke up tomorrow and you were a guy and you wanted to get laid like most guys do, how would you do it?
I'd go to a bar, find my pretty girl sitting at the bar, sit down, and I'd ask them if I could buy them a drink. Literally. That's all you have to do. Make yourself there. Present yourself. Be confident.
And again, you know, like I know she's not in the position of a man, so she's never had to be. And a lot of people say this, and people probably, and incels probably get tired of hearing that will just be confident thing. What she can't explain, that what she's saying is not wrong, but to put yourself in the position to be able to do that is going to come with probably a lot of failures until it actually works. And confidence is built through a series of trial and error. So the first time you walk up to someone and ask, like, you might be so incredibly anxious that they're like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? And that might happen a few times until someone finally says yes, you know, and each time you're doing that, you're like, all right, that wasn't so bad. I'm going to try it this way next time. I'm going to try it that way next time. Maybe if I do this differently. And then when someone says yes, you're going to get such a rush of like, oh, you were met with success, you know? And then that rush, that feeling that you felt is going to help you in the next subsequent attempts to be even better at it.
I understand that, but if that was true, why would there be so many guys who complain about being stuck in the friend zone?
Because they're too busy trying to be the nice guy. They're not actually presenting themselves that they want this. They're looking like the friend, so we see them as a friend.
Yeah, they're not being honest about it.
Do you prefer a man who is a gentleman or a bad boy?
I like a gentleman.
Is it fair to say women lust after bad boys that want to settle down with nice guys?
Yes.
How do bad boys treat women?
Like shit.
What's the difference between a man who spoils his woman and a man who's whipped?
What's the difference between a man that spoils his woman and a man that's whipped?
His level of consent and his part in happiness in doing whatever he's doing for his woman. If he's not happy doing it, if he's resenting her,
then that's whip.
It depends on the authority that he puts down. Like, there can be a man that spoils his woman in a certain way. He takes her to dinner, he takes her out, he takes her on vacation. And then there's the men that literally bow down hand and foot for their women, that their women are running all over them.
If a woman expects to be spoiled, doesn't that mean she expects her man to be whipped?
No.
Do men shame each other for being whipped the same way women slut shame each other for being easy?
Yes.
I don't know about that. I do know that men will shame their friends for being whipped, and I think that's a problem with the patriarchy.
I mean, yeah, definitely men are going to shame their friends for being whipped, because if a friend of a guy sees something like that and they can see that there's a lack of respect there, then guys are going to, you know, they'll probably make fun of you about it, but they're going to point that out, you know, and just be like, man, why you doing that? You know, like, come on, man, have some dignity.
Does every incel hate women?
No.
Does every feminist hate men?
Probably, yes. Yes.
Does every incel hate women?
I don't believe every incel hates women. I think that they might be shyer than most men. I think more alpha males end up getting more sex than more beta males do.
Does every feminist hate men?
Huh. Yes.
It's so funny that the guy and the girl answered it the same way.
I'm not a feminist. I am more of a traditional woman, so I really can't speak on the feminist woman because I don't agree with most of them.
What is the patriarchy?
Patriarchy is...
Oh my God, that's so funny. I hope she has like a cohesive answer, but it's going to be so funny if she doesn't know how to answer.
You're going to make me describe this.
How do you define it?
Well, the old white men in who have deemed what is acceptable for men and women, the roles of men and women.
See, like it's almost like as amorphous as like a kind of like elementary belief of like God, of like a man in the sky that's sitting on a throne and has a big white beard or something like that. It's just this kind of story. Like it just doesn't. It almost sounds like mythological, like this council or cabal of white guys that came up with these rules and everybody was listening.
And social norms, the leads. It's all back to old white men deciding for everybody.
See, it just doesn't sound, you know, it just doesn't make sense. I love this channel because it's great reaction material, and the questions that he asks are they're very well placed to get a person to think about the concept in a way that they clearly haven't before. And then you could see that like when they get stuck or they just let out a big burst of emotion, because then it's like they're realizing like, you know, I've had these beliefs for so long, but they may not actually be right. And I guess we kind of imagine ourselves challenging people's beliefs by coming up with this great argument for something or laying down a bunch of facts. But what the It's Complicated channel proves is that asking the right questions is sometimes way more effective in helping someone see the error of their ways than by just, you know, beating them over the head with statements or facts or whatever. Anyways, if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get this channel to 1,000 subscribes. And please head over to the It's Complicated channel and give that channel a subscribe too. I'm going to be reacting to more videos from that channel just because I think they're really funny. And hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the next one.